Yo, welcome back to the live stream. It's your boy Tokyo Stoner, and we are back in business. Today we're going to be playing some Stellar Blade Uncensored New Game Plus, but we're also going to be playing some Stellar Blade Up Patch 1.3. There's been a lot of talk in the community recently about nerfed, burst, and beta moves. For anyone that's aware of that conversation, I'm sure you know that the community is undecided as to whether the skills have been nerfed or not. Some people are saying that the beta and the burst skills have been nerfed, and the other side of the conversation are saying there's no changes whatsoever. We did a 3-hour stream the other day. The link to that's going to be in the description of this video and in the pinned comment. The purpose of that stream was to run the relevant tests required so that we could really find out once and for all, have the beta and burst moves been nerfed in update 1.3. If you're unfamiliar with the channel and the videos I make of this game, I play exclusively on 1.0 uncensored patch. So I felt like as someone that's played across different versions of the game, it would be pretty clear for me to be able to make a decision as to whether the moves had been changed, right? So some of the moves we were really taking a close look at during the test was the infinite wave or the shockwave technique, the infinite pierce or the triplet technique, the infinite slash or slash technique. We also checked out Tempest, punishing edge, and descending break. From the test that we ran, it became very clear that there is absolutely no change to any of these moves. They work exactly the same as they always have from version 0 through 1.1 through 1.2 and through 1.3. Beta and the burst skills are not changed. They work exactly the same. There was also reports that Tempest no longer had iframes, and I'm about to show you footage that proves conclusively that on 1.3 it definitely does have iframes. It still interrupts the enemy. And I think something I'd like to say about Tempest just before we move on in the video is just that one of the examples I saw, and I think one of the key examples that the community is using to argue that this move is nerfed, is some footage of someone getting killed by Raven in the middle of a fight. I'm presuming the people that are putting out the information about Tempest not working properly against Raven, maybe they just need some more time in the lab with Raven. Just to be clear, when you fight with Raven, Raven also has access to the move Tempest. Whenever you or Raven use the move, you get about 5 or 6 seconds of invincibility or iframes. Because of that, whoever uses Tempest first is gonna lose the draw. It's almost like, you know, cowboys with the revolvers, you know, draw. Whoever draws first is gonna lose in this instance because they're gonna run out of invincibility first. So if you're fighting against Raven and you pop the Tempest and she happens to pop it half a second or 1 second after you, she's gonna kill you, right? Because your iframes are gonna run out right when the damage from her attack is triggering. Do you get what I'm saying? If it's the other way, you're gonna hurt her instead. If Raven pops her Tempest and you pop yours slightly afterwards, she's gonna run out of iframes. You're gonna tank all the damage using your invincibility, and then you're gonna hit her. So just to be clear, Tempest still has iframes in 1.3, and if any of you guys have seen the footage of homie getting killed by Raven while using Tempest, the reason he dies is not because Tempest doesn't have iframes. He dies because he uses his Tempest slightly after Raven. And so his iframes run out right when the damage procs, or right when the damage hits from Raven's Tempest. So yeah, just to be clear for anyone that doesn't understand how that exchange works, Raven is the only character who can use Tempest, right? When you're fighting against her, you really have to be aware of the fact that she can use Tempest. When she's using Tempest, she will be invincible for 5 or 6 seconds. You either have to dodge at the right time or use your Tempest or your Tacky mode to counter or evade the damage. Another thing to point out is that if you use Triplet during Raven's second phase, she's going to counter you, and you get like this animation where she rejects your attack and she kind of, you know, beats you up a little bit. That's normal. That's just part of how her AI is programmed. So I think maybe the people that were reporting about that, perhaps they haven't spent enough time with Raven to be aware that that's part of her mechanics. That's how she works. Yeah, if you hit her with Triplet or Infinite Pierce during her second phase, she will counter you. And that's true on 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. So before we get really started and we start going through the footage and everything, one more thing I'd like to point out is just that another part of the conversation about the nerfs is people saying that the enemy AI has been buffed. The only enemy that I would have liked to test against is Providence. We ran tests against Belial, certain trash mobs, and Elden Atiba. And yeah, I didn't notice a difference in the way the attacks worked or the enemy's AI. It just, everything felt the same. So again, Providence is a very aggressive boss if you let her get started. So just for anyone that might be confused as to like why Providence is just kind of rushing them down with a constant chain of one-shot attacks. So yeah, Providence still does the chain of one-shots on 1.0. She's very aggressive, and anything she does that's not a basic combo is gonna one-shot you. That's just how she is. If you're struggling to handle Providence's AI because she's rushing you down a lot, what you would want to do is hit her with this move, Shockwave. The reason you would hit her with Shockwave is because this is the best move in the game. It doesn't matter what enemy you're fighting against. The first hit stuns and the last hit knocks down. So for example, if you are fighting against Providence and she's doing something you don't understand, or she flashes yellow, for example, you would hit L1 circle to stun, and then the third hit would knock down. Obviously, like I said, the only boss I would have liked to have tested that I didn't test was Providence, but when testing against Belial and Elder Natiba, Shockwave worked exactly the same as you're seeing here. Stun on first hit, knockdown on third hit. And while we're here, I'd also like to point out that Triplet is another great move for interrupting the enemy. If Providence or any other boss is doing something you don't understand, or they're flashing yellow and you don't know how to what the correct dodge timing is, then you would use Shockwave to get an instant stun and some knockdown, or you would use Triplet for an instant stun and some balance damage. Just on a side note, if you do use Shockwave to knock the enemy down, it also creates like a really good window for you to heal, like maybe throw in a regen or just kind of regather your ground and figure out what's going on. So yeah, a lot of the end game bosses, they don't really give you any time to breathe. If you're struggling to find that moment to heal, or you know, just get your bearings, use Shockwave. It knocks them down for long enough for you to get a free heal and kind of, you know, get some space and figure out what's going on. So yeah, without any more long talking, let's get straight into this footage. Right, so the first set of clips are taken during Spire 9, where we're just fighting against some of these tanky, strong trash mobs. And we're just going to use this as an opportunity to demonstrate that the iframes from Tempest still work. As you can see, we've got a lot of strong enemies, and they're all, you know, we're gathering them up so they can hit us with their attacks, right? Low. So there's your iframes. We are getting hit by so many attacks. I'm just going to pull that back because I think I'd like you guys to see that again. As you can clearly see, we are getting hit multiple times by multiple enemies, and we took 0 damage. One more time for the guys in the back. Your iframes are still active on 1.3. All of this footage you're seeing was taken on 1.3. Right, so there we go. We just proved it. The iframes from Tempest still work, at least against trash mobs. We'll later prove that they still work against bosses. So yeah, the next set of footage is taken against another trash mob in the same area. Again, another very aggressive and strong enemy. We're just showing you that the beta skill is still stunned. They still knock the enemy down. They still lock the enemy up. Stun lock works just fine, and there's no problem with it. Just in case you guys needed proof that we are on 1.3, as you can see, the costumes are censored. If you're familiar with this channel, I don't play on up patch. You're never going to see me wearing censored gear. So there's your proof. We are on 1.3. Right, so when we were running these tests, we obviously tested against some trash mobs, as you just saw. We also wanted to run against some bosses, because I felt that, well, maybe the bosses have been changed versus, you know, the trash mobs. So we're about to get some test footage versus Belial. Part of the reason why we're running story mode is because I felt like it was important to visit these bosses on both story mode and boss rush battle. When you enter boss rush battle, it does tell you that there's stronger versions of the enemies. It doesn't tell you how. So I did think it was worth testing against both versions of the bosses just to see if Belial felt different on story versus boss rush mode. He didn't, by the way, in case you were wondering. He felt exactly the same. I'm pretty sure when they say that the boss rush bosses are harder versions of the enemies, I'm pretty sure what they're saying is that you don't have any revives. So let's just take this back to the beginning. I just want you to see that when we open the fight, the first move we use is a Shockwave. The reason we use that, well, we use it because it's a great attack, but we also use it to demonstrate to the viewer that the first hit stuns, stun, knockdown, complete stun lock, full control, okay? There, we use Triplet. Again, we use Triplet here for a stun. Triplet doesn't knock down, but you're going to see it hit a complete stun, and it's going to knock him out of whatever animation he's in. Bang, he's stunned. Again, Triplet is not nerfed. shockwave is not nerfed. This is 1.3 footage. Even the shield breaker is still stunning and knocking down, as it does on every version of the game so far. Again, just more examples of the shockwave locking up the enemy. And yeah, I mean, I felt like it was worth just letting that boss battle play out, just so you guys could just kind of see more footage and see more of what's going on there. So again, if you guys are familiar with Spire 9, you're going to recognize this mob of enemies. These are very tough guys. They got a lot of attacks, and yeah, we're going to test some of our skills here just to see how they deal with it. Tempest, it's not as obvious as in the previous clip, but we did get an iframe there when he tried to hit us. Again, stunned. As you see here, with all three of them grouped up and one of them doing a repulse attack, we're going to hit them with the triplet and it's going to interrupt all of them. Nice. Again, another example of triplet interrupting the enemy. Again, another example of triplet stun locking the enemy and knocking them out of their animation. There's an example of us getting fucking smoked by this fucked up robot guy. So yeah, like for me, this footage is very conclusive. You know, this is hard mode 1.3. This entire mob of very strong enemies, like, you know, we had iframes, we were locking them up, we were stun locking them. There was nothing they could do really. For me, that's very conclusive. Now we're going to get into the story mode version of the Belial boss fight, and we're just going to show you some more examples of these attacks stunning and locking up Belial. And just, I didn't mention this earlier in the video, and I kind of wish I mentioned it really early on in the video, is the conversation about bosses having armor on some of their attacks. A lot of bosses in the game have armored attacks. Juggernaut has some armored attacks, Stalker has some armored attacks, Belial has some armored attacks. Elden Atiba also has some, Raven has some, Dark Natiba has some, or Unidentified Natiba, she also has some armored attacks. It's mainly the end game bosses, but there are a lot of bosses in the game who have armor on some of their attacks. So if you're not familiar with those attacks, when you do your move, you might be really thrown off that your attack is not hitting or locking up the enemy. But I'm just going to let you guys know from now, as a 1.0 player who's beaten the game well over 10 times now, there are many bosses in the game who have armor on a few of their moves. So you just want to be aware of that and just kind of get familiar with the animation so that when you're fighting them, you recognize and you know, oh, this one has armor. And maybe you don't throw your beta or your burst out. You just parry that one and dodge and wait until they finished that very strong attack. Do you get what I mean? That has so much poise on it. Anyway, let's get into this Belial video. So during this fight, we were basically trying to get Belial to trigger his attacks so that we could try and interrupt him just to make sure everything was still working. So this is a beautiful example that's about to come up here of Tempest iframes working completely fine. So look, he's about to hit us with a mega attack. We hit Tempest and we completely negate all damage. One more time for the guys in the back. He's about to hit us with a very strong attack that you need to dodge normally to avoid it. We are going to hit Tempest, and by doing that, we completely negated all damage. One more time for the guys in the way, you know, in the bleachers. 0 damage taken, okay? And we stunned him, and we locked him up, and we pushed him back, just like Tempest has always done in every single version of the game. So I'm really happy we got this clip. It's very definitive. Tempest is not nerfed. This footage is captured in 1.3. There's a beautiful example there of Shockwave stunning and locking up Belial when he's trying to do his combos. He's about to try and attack us. We're going to knock him out of that attack by using a Shockwave. Completely interrupted and knocked down. So the stun and knockdown is intact. That's what we're proving with that shot there. Or with that clip, sorry. Again, another stun, another knockdown. Another stun, another knockdown. And this is really good because this is an example of an attack that has armor, right? So he's about to do his power up, his regen. You can't knock him out of this animation, right? So as you can see there, we just hit him with the shockwave, which is meant to stun and lock up. In this instance, it didn't work. That's because this specific attack has armor. This attack has armor in every version of the game. So like, that's not a change. That's always been in the game. And it's for you to get familiar with which attacks have armor and which attacks do not have armor, so that you're not wasting energy or getting confused and thinking your stuff is nerfed when it's not. So there you go. He has armor there, right? We're gonna hit him again. Boom. Now he no longer has armor, right? Another really good example of Tempest interrupting Belial. You know, we're under pressure, our health is low, Belial is hitting a whole bunch of, you know, relentless combos, and we use Tempest to deal with it, as you always would do. So look, here we're supposed to die. Instead we hit Tempest, we negate the damage, we stun him up, we lock him up, and we push him back. Tempest is not nerfed. So you're about to see us just bully Belial now with a bunch of shockwaves, just to kind of really drive the point home. Stunned, knocked down. We have infinite energy. He's stunned, he's knocked down. He's stunned, he's knocked down. And just so you guys can be clear, this is hard mode. You can see it right there. And so something I'd just like to mention as well while we're here is that for me, when I was running these tests, because some people said that the beta and burst energy regeneration is lower than usual, I didn't notice that at all. With my build, which is a beta energy and burst energy recharge and recovery build, I had no issue generating energy. The recharge rate felt exactly the same as it always did. I even did some dashes and some dodges and stuff to see the burst energy rebuild. I think there's footage of it in this video, and if you look closely, you'll see that the burst energy and the beta energy recovery seems normal. So yeah, some people reported that the beta and the burst energy is recharging slower than usual. From the test that I ran, I did not notice that whatsoever, and I had no problem generating beta, generating burst, and locking the boss up, as you just saw. And so some of those clips that we would have watched of Belial, some of them would have been filmed in story mode, some of them would have been filmed in boss rush mode. We're about to go back into some boss rush footage, and I'm about to show you that Shockwave still works against the Elden Tiba. Obviously, I didn't have Providence unlocked on the account, and I didn't want to take the time to, you know, do all of that. But Elden Tiba is one of the final bosses in the game. If Shockwave was nerfed and it had its stun and knockdown removed, I'm sure Elden Tiba would be a wonderful example of a boss who is able to refuse the stun, right, and refuse the knockdown. But as you're about to see, we stun him up, we lock him up, we knock him down, just like any other enemy in the game, just like you would on 1.0, 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3. So as you can see here, Belial was cleared in 2 minutes. We ran that during the test. If you want to watch that, then you can click on the link in the pinned comment, and that will take you to the full live stream where we did this. But yeah, so we defeated Belial. There was no difference. We're about to go to the Elden Tiba now. Now the build that we're about to use, as you can see, set and use from last place slot, that's the same build that I use on 1.0. So I don't have any Mark II gears or Mark II exo spines. I'm using a new game build basically. I'm using new game gear. And yeah, let's go. So here's your Elden Tiba boss rush hard mode. We're gonna parry him a few times to generate the beta energy. As you can see, the recharge rate is normal. Now we're gonna stun him and knock him down. I didn't film any more than that because at this point I'd already spent quite a few hours on getting this footage for you guys to, you know, prove that the moves are not nerfed. I wasn't on a mission to prove they weren't nerfed. I noticed that the community was in disagreement, and I thought it made sense that we settle the conversation once and for all. And so yeah, I'm just gonna play this a few more times before the videos end. Like I said, as you can see here, boss challenge, hard mode, using the last saved slot, which is a 1.0 build. No Mark II exo spines, no Mark II gears. When we hit him with the shockwave, Elden Atiba is stunned, locked up, and knocked down. So anyone that's telling you that the beta skills have been nerfed is low-key giving you false information. And anyone telling you the burst skills have been nerfed is also low-key giving you false information. I didn't run the test on the energy recharge as specifically as I was running the stuns and the lockdown, because I felt the stuns and the lockdown were the most important thing to address. But, you know, from my experience as well, you know, the energy recharge rate is the same. If it is reduced, it's negligible. And, you know, anyone kind of selling the narrative that the energy recharge is greatly nerfed or it's impossible to recharge energy now is also kind of giving you false information. Sometimes people make mistakes. With there being no patch notes, it does kind of make sense that some players might have misunderstood, you know, or jumped to conclusions. But I'm just here to let you know, hey guys, you know, we did a long test. It was about 3 or 4 hours long. There are no nerfs to beta, no nerfs to burst, no nerf to energy recovery. The bosses are not buffed as far as having extra armor. And so yeah, the players that are reporting that are probably just not familiar with the boss's complete movesets. I mean, Raven had some moves that I didn't see until like my 5th or 6th playthrough. So I'm just letting you guys know, you know, a lot of the bosses have a lot of moves. You know, because of RNG and maybe how quickly you're taking them out, you might not even see their entire moveset on your first few playthroughs, right? So just, you know, most of the bosses have some moves that have hyper armor. Getting familiar with the boss movesets and learning to recognize which moves those are is, I don't want to say it's important, but like if you're gonna go out there and say that the game's been nerfed, then you might want to familiarize yourself with the boss movesets first, you know, just a thought. Anyway, I think we're gonna cut this video here. As you can see there, another stun, lockdown, you know, demonstration. I hope you found the video useful. I hope you found it helpful. Hype and subscribe, all of that good stuff. Links in the description. The Waves, Volume 1, Oceans, that's the new album for the channel. Links in the description for that too. Stream and download the album, that's a great way to support the channel. Here you're gonna see evidence of the burst recharge. I'm just gonna pull that back before the video ends. So here you're gonna watch us, we're gonna hit a blink and we're gonna get a ton of burst energy. Just as another example that the energy recharge is not nerfed. Boom, tons of burst energy, right? Anyway, you guys take care of yourselves, stay lit, and I'll catch you lot in the next one. Peace. Oh, and before I go, I just want to give a big shout out to Reezy and Wu Fei. So yeah, Reezy really raised my awareness to the fact that this was fake news, and that kind of prompted me to take a closer look at it. And Wu Fei, also, you know, the creator of the Free Stellar Blade website, he was trying to, you know, he needs accurate information to upload to the website, and so we needed this clarified. And so yeah, if not for Reezy and Wu Fei, I might not even have made this video. So yeah, just, you know, big shout out to those guys, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one, man. Peace. Stun, knockdown.